Hello again, everybody, and happy holidays from all of us at CharSports 1, Char News 1, and Transpositions News. I'm Karleigh Webb, and throughout 2024, I've had the opportunity to bring some special content and special stories to you. And here in this special presentation, we're going to replay two of my favorites from this year. In 2019, CeCé Telfer, then a senior sprinter at Franklin Pierce University, won the 400-meter hurdles at the NCAA Division II Track and Field Championships. She also made history, the first transgender student athlete to win an individual NCAA title. 5 years later, spring 2024, Sadie Schreiner, a sprint specialist at 200 and 400 meters at the Rochester Institute of Technology, had the opportunity to etch her name in the record books right with CeCé Telfer. Like Telfer, she was determined and fast as a transgender woman student athlete. I had the opportunity to talk to both of them in 2024. Schreiner as she was making her run, and Telfer as she was documenting her run in her book, Make It Count. I invite you now to sit back and enjoy tales of this Sisterhood of Speed. What is your favorite part and the best part of the two races you run? You do the longer sprints, your 200 meters and 400 meters. What do you like about those two races?
My favorite part about those races is the final 100 meters of the 400, which I think is super controversial because you're dying for those final 100 meters. But especially in the 4x4, that's when you catch people. That's when like the chasing really starts to happen. And that's my personal favorite part. I'm a chaser. I run fastest when there's someone ahead of me and I need to beat them.
One thing about this outdoor season, for the most part, all you've done is win. How much did what happened at indoors affect your mental preparation for the outdoor season?
Indoor is pretty similar to everything that happened outdoor, but just to a smaller scale. Especially with indoor nationals, it was the first time that there was physical protesters at my meet. And so the weight of being at national competition and then also having a group of people protesting me as I competed kind of got in my head a bit. But since then, after it happens so frequently, you start to get that kind of mental fortitude and you learn how to block it out and really focus on your race. So I'm much more prepared to go into this competition with a clear head.
There were protesters at indoor nationals over you.
Yeah, there was a small group of them, and they were yelling at me, especially once I finished my race. I didn't notice too much because especially for a 200, when you lock in, I don't hear what's happening around me. I'm just focused on running. So I really didn't notice anything until after I'd finished my race.
One thing that happened to you at indoors I do want to focus on is you ran your race, you won your heat, you think your time is fast enough, and then an entire heat sweeps you and three other people out.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like?
It's not something you can be mad at. There's a lot of great fast athletes, and I'm super dependent on the race that I run. Since I am a chaser, I go to win my heat, and if there's no one with me for that final 50 meters, that final 100 meters, it really affects my race. And so, there's nothing you can do. You get in a heat and you win it, and if everyone else is faster, everyone else is faster.
Complete this sentence. For Sadie Schreiner to be on that podium or at the top of that podium this week, I'm going to have to do blank.
My best is probably the best response. My coaches always focus on making sure I'm relaxed. When I run my races, I'll tense up too much, and so I always run best when I get to stay relaxed. And that's really when any athlete runs their fastest, is when they're relaxed and confident.
How does your art play into your sport? Because one thing, in photography, you definitely have an eye, and your graphic art is stunning. How does that all work into all the facets of your life?
Yeah, I've been doing photography since seventh grade, eighth grade. Um, I focused on it a lot in high school. I did my own independent study. I started even like this mini AP program for the high school that I graduated in. Um, and then I knew going into college I wanted to focus on photography. It's actually some of the first few photos I ever took and printed. I knew I wanted to come to RIT for that. And I'm a very design oriented person, especially with my photography. I love the cleanness of advertising. And I was struggling to find an outlet to how I felt when everything started to happen. And I didn't really know how to express myself, especially since I'm just some college student. You know, I don't have a platform, I don't have anything to really speak outwards to. So I just went to my art, the thing that I do every single day for school anyway, and really used it to just try and express myself and how I felt.
Walk me through it. What led you to build this particular piece?
Yeah, so there's a few layers to it. The first is one of the assignments I was given for class was called the 100, and it was simple. Find anything that references, 100, a large quantity, and make a piece about it. And so I wanted to make a piece about, it's way more than 100, but all the comments and things that are said about me. And how it really, words define who you are. And I wanted to kind of visualize that in my own sense. And so all the text on the screen that makes up myself in this image is just comments taken from Twitter, from random people, or from my Instagram page. You also have this kind of like eye in the top right. That's something that shows up in a lot of my works around this topic. I have a few more that I just made that I've yet to upload. But it's my kind of like visualization of the viewer. And that's why it's have that like 3D element on the image itself.
Now, when you hear people calling you that word, what goes through your mind?
A lot of things go through my mind. Um, it's become kind of numbing at this point. It's the first thing that everyone goes to. The amount of times I've been called a cheater is it's impossible to count. Um, but usually I find it comes from just a lack of understanding. There's a lot of people who don't know what hormone replacement therapy is like, that I even go through it. There's people who think that transitioning is just saying, oh, I'm trans and I get to compete on the women's team, and they don't even know like NCAA's policy. Um, and so when I hear that, I usually go back to like misinformation. And one of the things I really harp on about is just telling my story, showing my documentation of everything that's happened to kind of prove this scientifically backed explanation as to why, I am equitable to compete in the women's division.
There's something on your Instagram which really struck me, because this tells me you're ready to take on Indianapolis if it comes to it. Quote, I'm trying hard to get my voice out there as I have more than enough evidence to prove the equitability of the NCAA's current policy. I would hate to lose the sport I've been competing in for 9 years. Okay, Sadie, walk me through it. Walk me
Yeah.
through that.
So I've been competing in track and field for 9 years. The majority of that has been running the 400, which is my favorite event. Um, and through middle school, I was state championship. I was setting school records. In high school, I was top of my league. And I started taking medication, and my time plateaued at a nice 50 point. And I went into RIT with that time. The coach is expecting that I was going to whittle down. And even I thought that only like 3 months on medication wouldn't do that much to my body. But I go into the track team, and everything's completely different. I'm working out and my calves start to explode. In the future, like 6 months down the road, I start having workouts where I'm running so hard that I can't walk the next day, because I'm running at these times my body can't keep up with anymore. And I very quickly noticed that this wasn't something where I was out of shape. This was something where things were different and I needed to adjust. And so I took the year to myself and I didn't compete. And I come back And all of a sudden I went from running a 50 point to running a 60 point. And we've been slowly cutting that time back down as I've gotten more used to the way my body works. But it's a speed that I'll never be able to reach again, I'm sure.
So make sure I get the timeline right. You started HRT before you started college.
Yeah. So I knew I was trans throughout my high school life, but I knew transitioning would have complications with the track team. So I waited until the last like month or two of my senior year of track to go on medication. And then I started to socially transition going into college so I could come in as Sadie, as who I am.
Mhm.
And since then, I've been on medication for 2 years now.
So essentially, freshman year of college, you was like, no, I'm taking this year off. I'm taking
Yeah,
this year off. I'm going to figure, I want to learn who I am.
not even just
And
that, but like I need to learn how my body works because I noticed a huge decrease in my muscles, really in my legs especially. I visualize running sometimes as like shifting gears, between different speeds you could go, and all of a sudden I was incapable of shifting gears. I was unable to just get faster. It was either sprint or jog, and there's nothing in between. Um, and it was a telltale sign to me that my muscles were different and my body was different. And unless I changed how I was working out, I wasn't going to get any improvement.
now, how did you do that? I want to know this for me. I wish I wish I could have talked to you like 5 years ago. I wish I could have heard this.
Trial and error, honestly. A lot of it was fighting my own mental, like my own mentality of I used to be able to run this time, I should be running this time in the workout. Um, and I would do that and I would destroy my calves and be unable to walk. And so it became tapering and experimentation for a year as I figured out what worked and what didn't. One of the biggest things that I realized pretty early on was that drills involving high accelerations, so going from slow to top speed, those were the most brutal on me and my legs. Um, just because I'm sure that 1 year point, as my muscles were changing and how they grew, my calves really became a lot weaker. And so that transition of speed would start to really wear down on my legs. And so I had to think of other ways to work out, other longer drills, focusing on endurance before I could start to go back to speed.
How do you keep yourself above the noise?
You just kind of have to. It sounds weird to say, but I'm still a college student. I'm still an athlete. I have to go to practice every day. I have to complete my classes. I have to do my work, and focusing on that is how you get through it. Things don't just stop because someone says something negative about you. You have to keep going, and so probably a lot of resilience is and stubbornness on my end is what does it.
Has there ever been a point when it's just like, would these people leave me alone and just let me run?
Yeah, for sure. But at points like those is when I reach out to my team and, ask to hang out and they, help distract me. And that's usually how I handle it.
So one thing, how important is that?
Super
For those who
important.
may not understand it, how important is it to know that my team is backing me, my coaches are backing me? They're not going to just leave me hanging out there to deal with
It's
all this alone.
yeah, it's everything. Even just one person, having someone who is just positive towards you really makes a difference. When you feel like there's this huge amount of negativity in your life, when you have all these people like screaming at you, um, even just having one person be kind to you really ends up making your day and making that difference.
This week, when you look at who's going to be in these races with you, who sticks out to you as far as, if I'm going to get to where I want to go, I know that I've got to deal with this person. I figure one would definitely be Kennedy Wade from Mount Union.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is super competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if someone drops a 53 in the 400 or there's another 23 in the 200. There's a lot of competitive athletes and it's a really close race. I have a lot of friends from U of R who I'm excited to see at nationals and compete with. And they're probably the people I'm most excited to race against, racing against your buddies and racing against your friends.
How hot is there a rivalry between RIT and U of R?
Not a huge one. U of R is such a competitive college and such a nationally ranked college that we're not fully there yet. We're striving our hardest to get there, and I think especially next year we're going to have some crazy performances and we're going to really take a stand. I think that's when the rivalry will really start.
I know one person who from U of R who probably hasn't forgotten about you, maybe even throwing darts at your picture, and that's Madeline O'Connell.
I love Madeline O'Connell. She's probably my favorite person to race against because we really push each other. I know that a lot of my top times wouldn't be there if I wasn't in a race against her, because having that person to chase and having that person to pace with really makes all the difference.
Liberty League 400 final. Walk me through the back end of that, because you were fourth at the 200-meter mark.
Yeah. So I think I said this earlier. I'm a tense runner. I tense up really easily, and my coaches know that. So before the race, I was told, take the first 200 at like 99%. Stay fast, but stay relaxed. And once you hit that 200-meter mark, that's when you go. I'm very much a chaser. When I see someone in front of me, I do everything I can to pass them. So having that distance be created in front of me in the 200 and then catching in the final 200, that's my specialty.
Have you thought about the history involved? In NCAA history, you've had 3 transgender student athletes who are first-team All-Americans. Have you even thought about, I could be number 4?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I really look up to athletes like CeCé Telfer and Leah Thomas. So to follow in their footsteps is big for me. I don't think it's something that's fully hit yet. It's kind of surreal to be at this point.
Since you mentioned CeCé Telfer, you do realize that Championship Saturday lands exactly 5 years to the day that she won her national championship.
I didn't know that until just now, but that seems pretty poetic in a lot of ways.
5 years to the, no, literally, it's 5 years to the day. It was May 25th, 2019.
Wow.
As part of this interview, there's somebody very important who I've invited to it. Hey, CeCé, what up? It's been a little while. Meet Sadie Schreiner.
We met actually in Boston.
Oh, you did meet?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I invite her on this thing real quick, mainly because I thought you guys never met, but it turns out you did. But also,
actually, we competed together.
Yeah,
not directly
really?
together.
Okay, okay. What was that like? Okay, I gotta get the tea on that. What was that like?
I mean, you can ask her first, but and I'll answer after.
My team honestly freaked out when they realized we were competing in the same meet as CeCé Telfer. And I was super excited to watch her compete. We were doing different events. I was doing the 200 and 400, but I definitely made an effort to try and say hi.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, I don't know if that was the meet that I got disqualified out of because I false started, which was probably like my last race of the indoor season. But I was just so focused on staying focused and blocking out all the hate because I already knew how everybody was looking at me and treating me, and I already knew how the coaches, like, they hated that my presence was there and I was the girl to beat. So everybody was already like ready to like take my crown or whatever. You know what I mean? So I was just really on one, like trying to like put on like my game face, my don't fuck with me face. And I was trying to like pretty much like not look at any support, anybody in the audience, because if I do see somebody that I know, or if I do acknowledge or like, break that focus, it like breaks everything overall. So I tried to like really stay in the zone and stay in the just stay in that execution zone. And I saw Sadie like after I got disqualified, and I was like walking back to go like get my shit and like leave. She introduced herself, and I immediately like made the connection because I think you had sent me an Instagram DM prior to that meet, and I did see it, but I couldn't respond because I don't know what was going on at the time, but I didn't have a chance to respond. And then I saw you at the track meet, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I will respond to your message. Immediately recognized you though, from the DMs, obviously, but it was awesome. It was amazing to see you there. It was amazing to see another girl like me, um, just living her truth in her power. And it felt good to know that I wasn't the only one there. That, I mean, I don't know if you were out, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it felt good to be, it felt good to not only be the only trans girl at the track meet. And yeah, I loved seeing you there. I loved your presence. And I was just trying really, really hard to like not fight somebody.
I'm a super talkative person. If I walk in too early, I get really nervous. So I love talking to people on the infield and people competing. And seeing you there really, really helped shake my nerves because it was such a big meet. You know, having someone there who had gone through the same stuff and was going through the same stuff that I was really made that difference for me. And helped clear my head in a lot of ways, especially I think going into that 200.
How did you do in the 200?
Way better than I expected to. It was the first meet where I really hit like decent times in the 400 and 200. The
Okay.
400 for me indoors is way worse than outdoor because
Yeah.
it's just it just doesn't make sense to me. But it was the first meet because I think a lot of those D1 and D2 athletes were there that I was really able to chase someone and push myself.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
It's
On one
well,
200 and 100.
okay. All of us are crazy. You do the 400 and you love it. You do the 400. You did the 400 hurdles and love it. Me, I did both of those events at a different point in my life, and now I'm playing women's tackle football in my 50s. We're all nuts. What from your experience could you give to Sadie heading into this week to process and maintain through what's going to be? Because let's face it, the haters are going to hate.
Yup. Sadie, to give you any advice going into this next chapter of your season is to really like focus on your race, focus on you, and just really, I'm sorry to say this, like put in your mindset that nobody's there for you. You got to rely on the support that is there, and everybody wants to see you lose. They don't want to see you win. Besides your teammate, besides the people that love you, which means you have to rely on that love, that support, um, and really run your race. Focus on you and run your race. Warm up, do everything that you've been practicing in practice and outside of that. Like really focus on you and what you need to do, not what other people have or what they're doing. You know what I mean? Because our stories, our journeys are different, and yours is very unique, and you need every single ounce of focus and energy and positivity going into any national race. So you really just need to collect yourself, do whatever you have to do to stay in that healthy mindset, and just remember to execute, and give it everything. If you cross that finish line and you're not dead, you did something wrong.
I definitely know that, especially for a 400.
Now, what has that meant to you? To not only compete, because obviously you love track. If you love the 400 meters, and no one loves the 400 meters, let's be real, and I think the race is like the greatest race alive. And I'll even be like, dang, 400 at a Masters meet. I'll be like, why did I enter the 400? You reevaluate your life choices, but what about competing as who you are, as the woman you are? Why does that matter so much?
Track has become my life in a lot of ways. It's had such huge influence on me growing up as like a middle schooler and having, an eighth grader become my mentor and then being a mentor to the kids under me and having the same thing happen in high school and the same thing happen in college. It's really just this great learning experience of mentorship and self-improvement. in a way that I don't think I'd get anywhere else, especially with such a sport like track where there's such, focus on bettering yourself and bettering your times. I don't really know where I'd be without it. I think I'd be a completely different person entirely. And for the longest time, I battled with, should I transition or should I just compete as I am because I know it'll be easier? And I tried for a long time to keep that kind of bottled up, but you can only really deny like who you are for so long before it starts to take too much of a mental toll. And so being able to present as who I am, being able to be who I am, being able to compete as who I am are super important.
Five years ago, CeCé Telfer made NCAA history. First transgender student athlete to win an individual national championship. You remember it was May 2019, Kingsville, Texas, 400-meter hurdle finals, and she just decimated the field. And in many ways, that balmy night in Texas influenced a lot of my own journey. But behind every hero story, there's the origin story. And her origin story just came out this week. It hit the shelves. It's her autobiography. It's called Make It Count. We talked to CeCé Telfer about the road traveled, the pain, the pride, and the road ahead. What led you to write this? What led you to do this? There's a lot of pain in here.
Yeah. What led me to do this was like what you just said, all the pain that I've had to endure, all the no's that I've gotten, just making sure that I have something substantial, something that marks how hard I've worked, how hard we've worked as people, as Black people, as trans people, to get to where we need to be in life, and the hate and discrimination level of what we have to go through. Now, people go through things, but we have an extra layer that other people cannot fathom. You feel me? So I feel like it was so important for me to put this out there and to have this. So I'm just trying to tell my story, and I'm not trying to tell it over and over again, but I'm just trying to have something that is tangible so people can, like you said, read it over and over again to really fully understand and wrap their head around that there can actually be somebody that is fully born transgender, like a woman in the wrong body, a man in the wrong body. So,
In a
very
way,
important.
now, is that the way you see your experience?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because I never once in my book did I say I identified as a boy. I identified as gay, and then I became no. I was always finding the word and the identity and the thing that I really that I saw I was, and that was always my mom or my sister or any female figure in my life. I always saw that like that's what I'm gonna end up being. That's who I'm gonna end up being. That is me.
The toughest parts for me to read was the childhood story, growing up. First in Jamaica and then coming of age in Canada. Give me a picture of what got you through it. Because at that age, I remember being that age and having these feelings, but having no vocabulary, no idea how I could tell anyone. How'd you get through?
How I got through those trials and tribulations at such a young age, those times, my sister, someone told me as a child to never stop smiling and and be positive because that is going to take me around the world, and that resonated with me my whole entire childhood and my whole life because I was always bullied, I was always scrutinized for being happy, for always smiling. My own mother looked at me and told me that if I keep smiling and I keep being this happy person, people are going to take advantage of me and people are going to use me, and I'm weak because of it. So, and then on the other hand, you have somebody tell me to keep doing this because it's going to take me through a lot of doors, a lot of places, and around the world. And it really did. So the fact that that was like really something that resonated in me, just keep being you, was what the person was really saying, and stay true to your heart and who you are fiercely. that's really what brought me through. That was really my shield when I was going to school in Jamaica, and it was such a hetero, strict society. Just always being positive and always smiling and empowering myself and others. Literally was my protection. Like any other kid, like even some bullies found it hard to bully me because they're like, "Damn, like this kid is actually a good kid." Like, this kid is nice. This kid is always smiling, positive. They didn't really do anything besides how they're identifying. And, like it's crazy. Like I see all of that. I see like people who really wanted to hurt me. They couldn't really fully hurt me because they were like, you're innocent. You know what I mean? Like that really was my protection, honestly. Just trying to like keep smiling and keep just being true to what I feel on the inside, and not what people wanted me to be, what my mother wanted me, what anybody else wanted me to be. I was being what they wanted me to be as a shield for my protection, basically. But underneath that shield was that positivity, that smile, that resignation of keep smiling and keep being positive because that's going to bring you around the world. But also protect that peace. And that's exactly what I was doing.
When did it get hard to protect that peace?
Oh my God, it got hard in high school. It got hard in high school when I, that's a really good question. I think it got hard in high school and I had to really rely on sports. And that's where cheerleading, gymnastics, and track and all of that was like, all right, I need something more tangible. I need something that I can actively hold on to beside this inner, innate feeling. So that's where sports came into play.
One thing in the book that struck me, because, well, everything struck me in one way or another. You talked about, you went in talking about the backstory of what happened at trials in 2021. And those moments that people may not have known about. Franklin Pierce. Have you had a chance to talk to Coach Zim lately?
I caught up with him at actually my last indoor track and field meet in February. Um, I went out to Boston, New England area from about to compete and tour the East Coast to like really have a fair shot of making a team. And I caught him on my last competition, and he's going through it. He's going through it. He just lost a parent, so yeah.
One thing I want to read from this book, because this struck me, because this is a story people don't know. Finally, he says, I've been waiting for this day. Ever since you first stepped into office freshman year and introduced yourself to the coaches with your dead name, we were all surprised. But we all thought, okay, that's how she wants to identify. We're not going to ask questions. We followed your lead, but the truth is, we've always seen you as a female, CeCé, from day one. So I've been waiting for this day. And I would love to have you on the female track team. How stunned were you to hear that from, of all people, a coach?
I was really stunned. Like I started crying. Yeah, I was super emotional, very emotional. I felt like my coach really had my back, like my university really had my back. Um, exactly how the love that I've been looking for from my mother and the words that I really wanted her to say, the coach said it to me and stuff like that. So I was just like, and in that moment, I felt like I had to give everything to that team, everything to that my university, and everything to coach them. I'm like, I really got to make you proud, and I did.
Now, I've taken you've at least kept up with some of the recent unpleasantness. Two high school
Um,
students, two high school
yeah,
students winning state championships and then getting booed? When you hear that, I mean, gut reaction to it.
Yeah, sickening. Like, it gives me, honestly, anxiety for them because booing and the crowd reacting how they are acting is not safe for any child, any kid, mentally and physically. We're adults. We need to do better because if it wasn't them, put your child in that situation. They're also kids. That's what they are. They are children. They're kids and they deserve to play sports. They deserve the life saving aspect that sports apply to kids like us that need sports more than anything else. And they deserve to be playing and running and training and competing with their friends and with other athletes that love and embrace them. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. And them playing and competing and training together as kids is very healthy and very, um, it's needed for the developmental process of the brain, mind, body, and soul for kids. So we need to stay out and intervene when we should intervene, like when doctors are, not doing the right things what they shouldn't be doing. That's when we need to stand up and talk about it because even till this day, what happened to the female athletes in athletics in general when it comes to anti-doping and like the medical staff and doctors, even to this day, like what happened to the women's gymnastics team, nobody's talking about it as much. Nobody is being as aggressive as they should be, as they are with this anti-trans war and this literally what they're creating. You see what I mean? Like,
Oh, yes.
no, let's stand on business on the right things and not interrupt normal normal human processing and normal human interaction. That is literally life saving.
And talking about the young people and
Yes,
talking about these young athletes who got booed, I'm sure that brings back flashbacks for you. Especially
absolutely.
when you went to indoor and outdoor nationals in 2019
Mm-hmm.
and they had to
Mm-hmm.
sit you down and say, this is the
Yup.
way it's got to work to keep you safe.
Yep. They
And
had to.
even
I was
now
on
you
the
got to deal with
line
that.
for my indoor national championship, my first one. I was on the line, and they had to stop the race because a parent said something out in the audience before the gun went off, and I was right next to the stand that had no railing, that had no boundaries or anything that parents could have done. Just they had to stop the race and tell the girls to stand up, and then they had to address. They had to adjust. They had to address that parent in front of us, and then tell us to get back into the starting blocks, and then go run the race or go execute the race. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? My life was threatened 5 seconds ago, and you want me to finish this race? Of course, I'm not gonna win. Of course, I'm gonna what? I still came fifth place though. Yeah. Okay. Let me see any other cis heterosexual athlete. Ask them what are they thinking about on race day. If they're thinking about their lives being taken, if they're thinking about their safety, if they're thinking about their basic human rights being violated, please ask them what they're thinking about. Ask Tina McLaughlin what she is thinking about on her race day. Please let me know. Thank you. Say it louder for the people in the back. That's all I'm saying. Like, you're banning me for your preconceived predisposition and ideas of what your fears are, not who I am. I am living this life. I didn't buy this life. Do not ask Caitlyn Jenner, Kristen Jenner, or the Jenners about anything regarding transgender athletes or transgender people. We are actively living this life. We have to go through the things that we have to go through to live. We don't have money to buy it. So please, when you're coming to us with the anti-trans rhetoric and you're banning us and looking for committees, have bodies that look like us. Have people that go through our experiences, that experience things like us. Have athletes that go through our experiences and have athletes that actively are going through it like us. Have bodies that look like us on those committees, in those spaces, because they're the ones that can really truly speak on and talk to the experiences that we go through.
Thoughts on the decision of the CAS not to listen to the Leah Thomas case against World Aquatics?
Oh my gosh, honestly, I feel like it was not a no, it was just like a not at this moment, not at this time. So it wasn't like a shutdown, it was like a, come back again when, everything is gathered and you have all the paperwork. I definitely feel like Leah Thomas deserves her chance to speak and for her voice to be heard, especially to CAS. And they need to consider everything that she's gone through.
What do you hope, especially young people, many of whom looked up to you, one we talked to recently, Sadie Schreiner? What do you hope that especially young people that may be looking at following in your footsteps, what do you hope they take from this? That they take
I really
from your
hope
story?
that young people would, what I hope that they would take from my story, like Sadie Schreiner and others, Andrea, Terry, I know that they're not particularly athletes right now like Sadie, but they were athletes, and if they still have time to be athletes again, and all the other athletes that are actively going through it and coming up. I just really hope that they take away from my book, from my story, that to stand in their resilience and them being themselves, living in their truth is pressure and is applying pressure, and that is already doing that's one step in the right direction. Just keeping you um advocate for yourself fiercely and never stop achieving your dreams. Always be ambitious. Always have goals and always work towards achieving those ambitions and goals and dreams. Because without goals, you can't achieve your dreams. So you got this. Keep going and try to stay positive. You're not alone, and keep going.
You got to see some of your progeny do their thing. People who sought you out. One was on the track at Division IIIs. What was it like seeing, say, if you got a chance, what was it like to, if you got to see it or you got to hear about it, to see Sadie Schreiner not just compete, but be an All-American and reach the podium, running third in the 200. And that's the best finish for a transgender student athlete in track and field since you on 5 years to the day. What's it like seeing that?
It was very emotional. It was beautiful to watch. It was beautiful to see, and I definitely cheered her on. It was beautiful to see that we're moving in the right direction. You know what I mean?
And at the
I
same
just
time,
feel proud that I was a part of that.
well, you definitely were, and she would agree with it. And at the same time, someone you influenced a couple weeks before took a football field and ran with it.
Hey, that is so crazy.
I mean, I just want to say, though, is that you helped get me here. I want to put that out there. You helped at the time when the week you did that was the week my name change became final.
Oh my God, I remember.
And you probably, and that's the thing that happened the same week. I was playing in the softball tournament that night and was watching the race.
Yes.
And every time I feel, I'm just going to tell you, every time I feel that I can't, I watch that race. I watch that race. Whenever I'm really nervous before a game, I watch that race. Or when I'm nervous before a race, I watch that race. I watch that race. And I realized, no, you did it. And I can because
We did it.
did. Yeah, because we did. What's life for you like now?
Um, it's a battle because trying to come out of this dark hole, dark place, and trying to be active and whole again. Because we're still in season for track. I'm still trying to show up and represent and compete. Always a track athlete. I'm always going to try until I get to the Olympics. Let's not get that twisted at all. But still coming out of this dark place of everybody around me that is cis and conforming is preparing for the Olympics as their right, and I'm the only person not having that right to prepare for the Olympic trials to a fair chance of making the team. Um, it's really hard to see all of that happening right now. It's really hard to see all the other athletes coming to LA and you know, in and out of my like seeing them in and out of the gym and knowing who they are and stuff like that. And it's really hard to be even in public, but the publishing of my book is really helping me to keep that distraction, keep the mindset and the goal of what it always was. And, can't stop, won't stop, got to keep going because I deserve to be competing right now. I deserve to be preparing for the Olympic trials like every other person, every other athlete that's worked their whole life that has made it to the top 30, 35 person in the country to represent the country. I am within that. So I deserve to be preparing for that. And it breaks my heart every single day that I wake up. And I'm not waking up to go to practice. I'm not waking up to prepare for a track meet. I'm not waking up to show the world that I exist and I'm not going to stop existing.
Now, with that in mind, what's the status of that fight? For example, are there any plans to take on World Athletics? What's the next move in regards to that?
To be honest, World Athletics and Team USA right now, they're family. Families have fight and disagreements. And right now, I just really have to focus on the positive because if I focus on the negatives, my voice is not going to be heard. They're going to use that political rhetoric and anti-trans war even more. So I have to hope and believe that my parent federations, USATF and World Athletics, is going to come to the realization that their ban was a mistake and their discrimination and outlaw of just non-inclusive and embracing space is hurtful to people. And I hope that they're going to change their mind, and I hope that they're going to see that this was a mistake and that it was wrong, and take accountability for their actions and do better moving forward.
What are you doing when you're not training and when you're not being an advocate? Well, one thing I do know is you out there getting your modeling thing on.
Period. Yes. Absolutely. Always modeling, always on the runway. I like to, just settle back and feel pretty. I like to, when I'm not running, I don't know, I like to just chill. I like to be a woman. I like to be a girl. I'm very much a girly girl. So I like to just get my nails done, be pretty, do pretty girl stuff and go to the beach, go to the pool, wear a bikini, feel sexy, feel like the woman that I am. Yeah.
Including serving in that powder blue track uniform.
Hey.
I'll admit I need that in my life.
I got you. I need
that in my life. But that's another thing as well. One thing I've noticed about a lot of the things you're putting together is that you're getting your FloJo on. That's what it is. You getting that.
That is the motivation.
You getting that. How much of that comes from just the experience of your come up, where you were trying to find yourself, and sports was the place where you could be safe in that?
Oh my God, all of it. I would say, because remember, Karleigh, my sister, you have to remember how I see myself today is I guess you could say before I found out that I wasn't going to Paris, I was 99% all athlete. So everything that I did, my motivations were literally um, Sonia Richards Ross, Shelly Ann Fraser Price, Veronica Campbell Brown, um, uh, Carmelita Jetta, and our girl Flojo. So don't play with it. So it's always been those big inspiration in sports for me. Those women have always been there. Like those, when it comes to track, those are always the women that everybody's looking for. I don't even know. I mean, there are other athletes that I know of, but those are the big five, the big ones that I'm like up there, you know. So they were always the standard for me when it comes to athletic and style. But when it comes to fashion, definitely FloJo keeping it together because she's fashion on and off the track. Let's not get it twisted.
Years from now, when you're older, and perhaps you've gotten to perhaps the fight is won. You've gotten to the Olympic Games, maybe at LA in 28, maybe even Brisbane in 32, maybe
Or the
even
World Championships next year.
or Worlds next year. I mean, I know you're not going to quit pushing.
Never.
What do you think your legacy will be when it's all years from now, when it's all said and done? What do you think the legacy of CeCé Telfer will be?
My inspiration, and I'm going to be real with you, is Harriet Tubman. That's mother right there. And not only is that mother, but a black woman did that. So, with that being said, me making it to the Olympics, me being on that podium, me even competing in that race, that is me embodying what mother has done for our people. Because that's how they're making me feel right now. Whatever black people tries to touch or do, it's always a problem, right? So they're making it so hard for us to compete at the highest level of sports. Why? Why? We've done this already. We've been through this. When I finish competing at every single race, the adrenaline that I feel, the healing nature of what I feel is very real. And that's why I keep doing it. That's why I keep doing what I'm doing. That's why I keep showing up. That's why I keep going on that line. That's why I keep going to these competitions. So when I make it, when I'm there, I will be I will feel like my job is done. I will feel like we are moving forward. I will feel like the war that we've been fighting is won. Like that will mark a huge step in the right direction for real. And for women at large.
The athlete is CeCé Telfer, in the book is Make It Count. And I got to say, you definitely did make it count. Go to your bookstore, whatever online combine you got, pick up this book.
Yeah.
CeCé, sister, thank you for just being here, and mostly just thank you for being.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, my sister Karleigh. Thank you for always empowering and motivating and uplifting myself and our sisters, our brothers, our cousins. You're just a beam of light. And in every situation in life, every process, every opportunity, we always, always, always have to make it count because you never know. There are people out there that don't have those choices, don't have those basic human rights. So when you get them, you have to use it and always make it count.